This is Metal Mike, and on this episode of the 80's Glam Metalcast, we talk to a glam metal legend, Zinny J. We talk his current project, Stagman, and we talk some classic stories on Easy Action and Shotgun Messiah. And we find out where his former bandmates from Shotgun Messiah are today. Instead of me saying check it out, let's shout it out. Zinny, welcome to the 80's Glam Metalcast. How you doing today, brother?
Thank you very much. Well, I'm doing fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing well, too. So, you have a new album coming out in February under the name of Stagman. It's all in Swedish. What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, that's correct. I back in 2017 or 16, rather, I just was fiddling around doing a new album, and for some reason I thought that I felt like I had done pretty much everything in the hard rock genre, so to speak, with singing in English. So it just came up to me that I do whatever music that comes out of me, and I try to do it in my native language, Swedish, because I've never tried that one ever before in my 35 years in the showbiz. And so I did actually my first solo album in my native language in 2017, and it got really good reviews. So one thing led to another, and we did the second album in 2018 that got even better reviews and so on. And I thought it was really fun to work out without any boundaries at all. You know, you go into a genre when you're young, like the glam scene or sleaze or whatever you want to call it, and that's what you stick to, kind of. But this time around, and I felt like, no, I'm going to do whatever comes out of me when I play the guitar at home. And so now, yeah, as you said, I'm about to launch the third solo album, which is called The Emperor's New Clothes, but in Swedish. So that one will be released February 21st, yes.
Great. Now, what made you decide to go from Zinny J. Zan to Stagman?
Well, to be honest, well, as an artist, I always been called Zinny J. Zan or Zinny Zan, even since back in 1983 when I did my first album with a band called Easy Action. It all came about when I was sitting there fiddling around in 2016, 17 to do this first solo album. And when it came out that I wanted to try out to sing my native language, Swedish, it felt like, okay, let's use my real family name instead. First of all, not to confuse other supporters around the world buying a Zinny J. Sam thing and then come out and see that, what the hell is he singing about, because they can't understand the language. So just for that reason, to be honest, I said, okay, that's my family name, and I'm going to sing in my native language. So that's, I'm still Zinny J. Zan, of course, but I'm Stagman as well. But I think that Zinny J. Zan will probably be the one when I do some English international albums again. That will be most likely under the flag of Zinny J. Zan and not Stagman.
I listened to your singles on Spotify, and I think they sound great. Now, I couldn't understand a word of them, but I thought it was great. It was great melodic hard rock.
Yeah, thank you very much. I can understand you don't know diddly what I'm singing about because it's in Swedish. But well, it's just sad. I would say that both albums that are out and now and the new one, it is still rock, hard rock, but there's other stuff as well that are more maybe like some stuff. Some people are said that it reminds me of some Bruce Springsteen or Tom Petty or whatever. And that might be. It's not very much glam in that sense, but again, you are not just one single, let's say, one single face. You have a lot of stuff within you, and as a musician, there's a lot of things that you want to try out, and I thought this was a really good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So you mentioned Easy Action, and I'll be honest, I've been digging around. I'm always digging around online for my podcast, finding information, and somehow Easy Action just missed my radar. So that was a band that you had with Key Marcello from Europe, correct?
Yeah, but before Key Marcello joined Europe, we formed this band together called Easy Action, and we did quite a stir. It was just at the same time as the Hannah Rocks and stuff like that. Hannah Rocks were old friends of mine. I started my own band, Easy Action. That was in 1983. We released our first album, and we got signed to Warner Brothers in the U.S. Under the Sire label for Seymour Stein. That always he had Blondie, Ramones, and so on. So they signed us, and then we got Bill O'Coin management. Back in those days, Bill O'Coin was famous for having Kiss, and later on as well Billy Idol. So he signed us as well and wanted us to come over to the U.S. For some reason, Key Marcello and the other people in the band were hesitant to that. So I moved over. So I quit the band and moved over and spent a year in New York playing around with the different people. But it didn't really work out, so I went back home again to Sweden, and that's when the guys in Kingpin, that later going to be called Shasta Messiah, found me, and the rest of the Shasta Messiah things is history. So yeah, so Easy Action was a band we had from approximately 82, 83 up to 85, 86 when I left the band. In the U.S., I would say that we're probably most famous because we sued Poison for stealing one of our songs that went in the top 5. Their song, I Want Action, is actually a rip-off of our We Go Rocking. And we did a settlement with them. So, they finally said that, okay, yeah, we stole the album. And back in those days, when they did the first album, and recorded this I Want Action, they had this producer, Browdy, something, and he actually told me, because he sued Poison as well later on, and he actually told me that it was Browdy that found this album when he was in Sweden at the famous ABBA Polar Studios, and he brought the record with him to the U.S., and he actually saw us live in Sweden. So the album was in the studio when Poison were recording that first album. So yeah,
that's funny. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to say Poison really liked one of your songs, right? So
yeah,
I did not know that you were managed by Bill O'Coin. What was he like?
Well, I only got to meet him once due to the fact that the rest of the guys in Easy Action didn't want to go to the U.S. So I went there by myself. So I met him. He was really a nice person. A little strange. But the one I met the most was, I believe his name was Brendan Burke. I think he'd worked for Bill O'Coin. So Bill O'Coin I met upon arrival in New York back in 1985. And he told me that, okay, get yourself in a studio apartment and find the musicians. And then he hooked me up with Billy Idol, because he was from Europe as well. He's an Englishman. So he said, you two guys will probably get along well, which we absolutely did. But, he was out on tour with Steve Stevens and his things. But I get to hang with them every now and then, try to find musicians and so on. And after approximately 1 year, 10 months, something like that, I just saw that, well, I can't find the musicians that I really want in New York, and I need to go back home, and that's what I did.
So when you went home, you formed Kingpin, and you guys ultimately released the album Welcome to Bop City. So tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, Tim and Harry, K. Cody, and Styx, they already had their band. They were located south of Sweden. And they were making a fuss around themselves because due to the fact that Harry Cody is a fantastic guitar player.
Yes.
So and all of a sudden, when they were shooting for a magazine looking for a singer, the magazine said, like, what kind of singer are you looking for? And they said that they would either love to have Mike Monroe or Zinny J. And the magazine, they know me, of course, and they said, well, Zinny, he's available. Why don't you call him? And they said, no, but he's living in New York. But this magazine knew that I, for a fact, have moved back again. So they said, contact him, and that's what they did. And I took the car down to the south of Sweden, met the guys, and went into the studio, and I was absolutely blown away. I think there was 3 songs that they had back at that time that I tried out. One of them was Bob City, where we rewrote it so it would fit me a little bit better. So me and Harry rewrote it, and I just got blown away because these guys could really play, and they were onto something really good.
So, not a lot of people probably know this. Most people just know you guys as Shotgun Messiah. So what was the thought process? Come to America and try to hit it big here?
Yeah, when we went into the studio and we absolutely clicked, they were asking me, of course, because I don't know if it was just Tim or maybe Tim and Harry, they liked my old band, Easy Action. And they said, hey, Zinny, so what can we do? What kind of connections do you have? You lived in New York and so on and so forth. And I said that, I've been touring Scandinavia and around so much with Easy Action. So I said that I want to take this band straight to the U.S. They thought the same thing, and they said that's really a possibility. And I said, yeah, that's how good you are. That's how good we sound together now. So I said that's absolutely shocked we should. And Harry and Tim have absolutely thought the same thing, and so did Styx. So I said, let me use my connections, but let's not make it to New York. Let's go down to L.A. because it's more happening. And that's what we saw. So that's what I did. So I took, as soon as the album was ready, I told to the Swedish record company that we were signed to at that time that I will go to the U.S. with this and get her signed, and then, you can sell us to any record company that I can come up with. And to be honest, it only took me 14 days in L.A., and then I had 4 record companies that were really interested. And the reason why we choose to go for Relativity Records was due to the fact that they said, absolutely, we take you over here, we make you be living here on H-1 visas or less U.S. citizens or whatever, because I told them I don't just want to go over there, make a small tour as a band starting up, go back again to Sweden and wait, because if I'm going to compete with the other bands back in those days, it was kind of Skid Row, Warrant, and all these bands. I want to compete on the same premises. So Relativity Records said, yeah, we'll take you over, and that's what they did. So we relocated. So we only did 1 gig in Stockholm, in the capital of Sweden, with Shotgun Messiah, and then we moved to LA.
And what was the problem with the name Kingpin? Did somebody else already have the rights to it in the U.S.?
Yeah, when we came over, as I said, first of all, I don't believe that Relativity Records really liked the name Kingpin. But it also turned out that there was a rockabilly band from San Francisco, I believe, called the Kingpins. And for that fact, we couldn't use that name. And we really tried hard to come up with a good name, but we didn't. So we ended up doing kind of a game. And that was that each of us in the band would have a paper and write one of the coolest, a cool phrase or a cool name, a cool word, so to speak. And I don't know which one wrote what, but it was me and Tim. So it was one of us wrote Shotgun and the other one wrote Messiah. And then you have paper and you have them pieces together up and down to see, could be either way. And all of a sudden, the record company guy, Cliff Coltrane, goes like, here you go, Shotgun Messiah. That will work. And we thought it was a fantastic name. So so it was all a game how to come up with cool words. And that's how Shotgun Messiah came about.
Oh, my God, that's funny. So, and if anybody doesn't know, your look changed drastically. It's like night and day. You're very bright colored when it was Kingpin, and then Shotgun Messiah is very black leather and darker look.
Oh yeah. The Kingpin thing was really, really colorful, to say the least. Not me so much, but the others. As you can see on the cover, I wear black already because that's what I usually did. And I spoke to the guys because they really wanted to make a fuss and controversy around them. But for me, that album cover, Kingpin, looked like I don't know, if band Sweet and the Kajagogo in a crash collision or something like that. So going out to the U.S., we sat down and can't have this. Let's bring the leather there or plastic jackets and so on and so forth. And that's what we did.
Is the Kingpin album really any different than the Shotgun Messiah album? Because it sounds the same.
Well, to be honest, it's not so much different at all. It's the thing when you come to the U.S. and you get the record company and so on and so forth. America always they want to do their own mix, their own mastering, their own recording, so to speak. So they wanted to be a little more rougher than it was. So I believe that the mix for Shotgun Messiah album is a little rougher. To be honest, I prefer the Kingpin producing myself. And then also we had for a song called "Shout It Out." That one started with a sampled Tim saying "fuck you," and that the record company said, well, the Walmarts or on all these, they will not take that album, so we changed it to instead. We also had a sample thing, a menuet kind of thing at the end of the Kingpin album that said "fuck you" as well. And that one they took away, and then I put in my love for the band Queen. So I took the intro of Brighton Rock with the circus thing, and just shouting, "I'm gonna live, I'm gonna die down Decadence Drive," and that was the end of the Shotgun album instead. So there are a few changes like that, really.
Well, I know most people agree that it is a kick-ass glam metal album. There's so many sleazy tracks, anthems. It's just an incredible album. Do you like to go back and listen to it a lot?
Well, I actually did back in 2013. And the reason for that was a friend of mine that used to play with me in a band called San Clan, Chris Laney, who's now a guitar player and keyboardist in the band Pretty Mates. We had a band called San Clan together, and he and Rob Marcello, another Swedish guy who was a guitar player for Danger Danger and used to play with Keel as well. They were approaching me and Styx, the original drummer for Shotgun Messiah, in order to reunite Shotgun Messiah because they were old fans of that band. And at that time, there was no chance in hell that Shotgun Messiah would get together again. So they approached and said, okay, if Rob Marcello pick out all these Harry K. Cody guitar stuff and everything like that, would you consider to call it something else like Shotgun or whatever, and go out and do a tours on festivals? I was not too keen about that, so I said no a couple of times, and then they said that, okay, but let's go down to rehearsals and try this. So we did a rehearsal for a weekend, and it was mighty fun to, these songs that you wrote together with the other guys back in your young days, so to speak. I'm 56 years old today, so it was absolutely mind-blowing to sing these songs again. So I said, okay, fuck it, let's do this. So we actually did some festivals at Shotgun, not Shotgun Messiah, because obviously it was not Shotgun Messiah. And so we did that in 2013, 2014. We also did a live album, live at Decadence Drive or whatever the name was for it. And it was absolutely a killer to play these songs again. So I have gone back. It's very seldom. I never put a Shotgun Messiah album on at home. But now I had to listen to the songs again to remind myself. And I was actually blown away because it still sounded still sounded cool and fresh.
So you guys got some love from MTV. They played a couple of your videos, Shout It Out and Don't Care About Nothing. Got pretty good rotation on MTV, especially Headbangers Ball. So that album had to have sold pretty well.
Yeah, we had for a time we had both Shout It Out and Care About Nothing on heavy rotation for a while, at least on MTV. And I know that VH1, I don't remember the guy's name, but there was a guy at VH1, he absolutely loved Shaka Messiah, and I was in contact with him a few times. VH1 was kind of new to us back in those days. But yeah, MTV was really on it, and we had one, we were there, me and Tim, to have a hosting day together with Adam Curry, was his name?
Yeah, that sounds right, yep.
Yeah. So we did some interviews there and so on and so forth, and yeah, the album's so good. Around 490,000 albums sold only in the U.S. for the first album, which ain't bad at all.
Now, when you talk about MTV, this is a thing I've been thinking about a lot lately as I prepare for my podcast. A lot of bands would get played a lot and would get invited to MTV for interviews, and then some other bands wouldn't. So was that like the label kind of, did your label have some clout at MTV? Did they pay to get you guys on for interviews, or how did that all work? Do you know?
Well, I certainly don't know everything around it, but as with everything, nothing happens just out of coincidence or that some nice person just loves you.
No.
Said, oh, come on to MTV. So yeah, there were absolutely politics around it. I know that because the Relativity Records, the head of Relativity Records was up in New York. And I know that we were placed in restaurants because we knew that someone from Billboard magazine or someone from MTV is going to be there eating. And oh, what a coincidence. The whole gang of Shaka Messiah is having dinner there as well. Things like that happened, and that's what they did. And I know that Relativity Records worked hard on MTV because I don't think they were too keen about it in the beginning. But then I think Adam Curry liked it because his girlfriend absolutely freaking loved Shaka Messiah. So she might have had something to do with it, talking to her boyfriend. And of course, Relativity Records also were on MTV all the time to, bring these guys up. So there's always politics around that. And the same with Billboard. And we were actually, I think we came up on the Billboard 49 as best and so on. And the Billboard people were really nice to us, talked to us, but we never, I think we had one interview in the Billboard magazine and that was it. But it's about selling a product. So yeah.
In 1989 was such a great year. That's the year, you guys came out. There were so many debuts. Pretty Boy Floyd, Babylon AD, Vane, Badlands, you name it. I mean, I know for me, a kid in the 80s, that was just like the peak of the hair metal, glam metal scene for sure.
I absolutely agree. When we were relocated to the U.S. and to Hollywood, that was back in '88, and then to finish up the Kingpin album or become like Shaka Messiah. And when we saw all these new bands coming up, we saw different bands here and there, and we said this is absolutely mind blowing to be here right now. It was absolutely the right time. It was absolutely fantastic. In all these new bands, as you said, and we even toured with Pretty Boy Floyd. We toured together. We had a co-headline tour, so to speak, for a while, a couple of months. And that was like wherever Pretty Boy Floyd had sold more albums than us, those cities, Pretty Boy Floyd were the headline. And the other ones where we sold more records, in those cities, we were the headline. So we were splitting the bill like that. And we were out for a couple of months. But for some reason, Elektra pulled Pretty Boy Floyd back. I don't know if it was poor sales or if it was anything else. So then we had to go out on tour by ourselves later on, and also with a band that Gene Simmons had called EZO,
yep.
Japanese metal guys.
Yeah, they're good. I like them.
Yeah, Yeah, so we toured with them as well. So yeah, but as you said, 1989, it was absolutely fantastic, and we were kind of scared when we were about to launch the Welcome to Bob City or the Shaka Messiah album, due to the fact that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, but in the same week or some weeks between, I think the releases, except for our first album, our very first album in the U.S., it was Aerosmith came out with Pump, The Cult came out with Sonic Temple, Motley Crue came out with Dr. Feelgood, and then, of course, I think it was Skid Row as well, right? Maybe they came up a little earlier. But in just same week, we had those releases, and we were like, oh, wow, we're going to be so drowned. No one's going to buy our album. But the fact of the matter was that the Relativity record did a fantastic job with putting out. We were on posters everywhere, where they really worked with Tower Records, so we were all over the place. And again, the proof is in the pudding. If you put a lot of effort into it and money, of course, you will sell, and that's what we did.
So at a certain point, I wouldn't know the exact year. Maybe you could tell me. You're out of the band. What happened there?
Well, yeah. The Hollywood time and the Hollywood years, they were pretty hectic. They were fantastic and fun. But there was a lot of other stuff as well. You know, there was booze, drugs, and late nights and so on. And for a while, I think that we did a Christmas thing at the what do you call it, Roxy on Sunset Strip, and we invited Pretty Boy Floyd as well, and that was like on a Christmas rock special, and then we partied on for 5 days or something like that, and me and Cece DeVille, that for that matter. How strange could that be? But Cece and I really hooked up as friends, and I got sick due to the fact that I was drinking and drugging out way too much. And after that, we went on tour in the beginning of 1990, and then it started more or less. It was I would say Tim was not too happy with how the band was progressing, and we started to write songs for the second album, and it was back and forth there. Harry sat with me sometimes. Sometimes, of course, he sat with Tim, because Tim and Harry was living together, and me and Styx were living together. So we had like two different apartments, so to speak. And it was there the tension started, really. And I think the tension was between me and Tim. All of a sudden, we just felt like this is not going to work. I felt absolutely side-blinded by them because they would never invite me all of a sudden. And I felt like, okay, then I have to do something else and something different. So I was hanging out with other people, like the guys from Europe or Billy Idol or whatever, because he moved down to L.A. as well back in those days. And we just sat down and we said, okay, it seems like we can't work together. So then I said, okay, then skip it. Relativity Records took me out for numerous of dinners and said so how are we going to get you back in the band? And I said there's no reason, because they want to go another way, and they are not too keen to work with me anymore. And to be honest, no one of them really spoke to me about it either. So but I guess it was a little bit of Tim wanted to sing. I believe he wanted to be a singer, and that's what happened later on. So we didn't fight too much about it. We said, okay, if it was not meant to be, not meant to be. So I said, okay, fine, I leave, and that's what I did.
What do you think of the album that they did? Well, they did a couple albums after you left. What do you think of those albums?
Well, I love the Second Coming album, absolutely. And the funny thing is that's the path that I really wanted to go. And I know when back in the days for the first album, and when we moved to LA, I always had the Raw Power album from Iggy and the Stooges in our band car. and I know that Tim absolutely hated it because he said that I've turned that fucking demo off because he thought it sounded like a demo because it was shitty sounding. And all of a sudden they're doing such and destroying all those stuff when I'm not in the band anymore, which surprised me quite a lot, to be honest. But well, yeah, I think Second Coming was a fantastic album, really, really good. I don't think it would have sounded the same with me. And I think Tim did an absolutely okay job because to be honest, I never considered him as a singer at all. He was kind of an okay backup singer, and not even that, because I thought Harry had a lot better voice for that. So I was kind of surprised that he really pulled it up. So all credit to him for that. But the album is good. I love that album. I think it's really good.
Couple thoughts that I have on it is what's funny is when I think of Tim's voice when he sings in Shotgun Messiah, like on the first album, it's very whiny, right? And then it seems like when he gets as the lead vocal position on the second album, he does not like that at all. He's actually sounding a little bit more deeper, a little bit more of a growl. So I thought that was kind of funny. I never bought that album when it came out. I think at that point a lot of my 80s glam fans are going to boo me right now, but I think I kind of moved on and got into some heavier stuff. I can remember like Overkill and Testament and Priest had done Painkiller. I think I had moved on a little bit, so I never got that album, and I think it was pretty much over for that scene in 91, so I don't think that album fared very well commercially.
Yeah, I believe, I would say that whatever we would have done, even if we would have done a new album with me going on the same path as the first album, I think that album would have died as well. Now I don't think that the Second Coming album died, but it never got really big. And that's due to the fact that the grunge came along. Yeah. And I think that to be honest, without knowing, because this is just my thoughts and nothing that ever Harry or Tim have said, but it seems like they were on the verge of trying to do rock and roll and grunge, looking at the grunge at the same time, due to the fact that the flannel shirt that Tim always started to wear instead and stuff like that. So I think they were kind of flirting with that one, but it didn't really work out that well.
The crazy thing is now Heartbreak Boulevard is always on Sirius XM, and I feel like that song is played all the time, and to me it feels like when it was out it didn't do a thing, but it's still, right now, it's picked up steam, that song, over the years.
It could very well be. In Europe, in Europe they play care about nothing quite a lot. So yeah.
So what's your relationship like with Tim now? When was the last time you guys talked?
Well, Tim and I haven't spoke since 1990.
Okay.
that's the relationship we have.
So he's done with Shotgun Messiah, right? I know he played with Marilyn Manson and he does his own thing, and he's pretty much deep into the industrial sound. So that's pretty much it. Is he done with Shotgun Messiah?
Let's say like this. Approximately 2 years ago, because I got a really, really good relationship with Styx, the drummer, and he was playing with me with Shotgun, of course, as well. Me and Harry, the latest years now, we are in contact, every now and then, looking after each other, see, are you doing fine, how are you and your wife, and, Merry Christmas, happy birthday, those things. Talking a little about here and there with music and so on and stuff like that. And it came about 2 years ago. We were talking about maybe doing a reunion with the original. And Tim talked to Harry. So Tim didn't talk to me at all. So through Harry, he said that would be a cool thing to do. And could you please, Zinny, check out the festivals around in Europe? And that's what I did. And I think Tim had set the price for it as well. And that price range almost be reached. So I said that we have approximately 5 or 6 of these festivals that would like to do it. But of course, they are on different dates and so on over the summers. And since Tim and Harry are living in the U.S., it didn't really work out. So at the end of the day, Tim and Harry came back to me, or Harry came back to me and said, well, I'm just speaking to Tim, and it seems like we can't really do it because then we have to go back and forth a few times, which is going to be hard for them. So let's not make these plans. But for me and Harry, it was really fun because Harry said that, wow, I'm really going to work on my stuff because, you know, it's been a long time since I played those songs. Not that he couldn't pull it off, because absolutely, you know, he's still an absolute amazing guitar player. And he said, well, I'm working hard on these ones now because we got to really sound good if we come out there. So it was about to happen 2 years ago, but I think a year and a half ago we said, or Tim and Harry came back and said, well, it's probably not doable. And then me and Harry were talking and said, well, that was probably the last train, because now, you know, we're not getting any younger, and to sing the way I was singing with Shock the Messiah back in those days, these high range pitch screaming and so on and so forth, well, I can still do them, but God knows for how long. You know, you can hear on David Coverdale, and you can hear David E. Roth, you know, the voices can differ quite a bit year after year. Not that I'm saying that I'm anything like David or both of David, but you know, the older you get harder to do the stuff. So anyways, me and Harry said, okay, that was probably the last train for it. So if it's going to be a Shock and Messiah reunion, no, I don't. I highly doubt that. But I know that both Tim and Harry they wanted to do it, but for some reason it didn't work out. Then if they're going to do it with the second version of Shock the Messiah with Tim singing, I don't have a slightest idea, because that's nothing they're going to talk to me about.
Sure.
So, but for the original lineup, it seems like that train has left the station.
What does Harry do now? Is he active musically? Because I never really hear much about him.
Well, Harry's always working with music, and has. The reason for him to not be in the limelight, you have to ask him about. I actually never asked him either, because I think it's his business. Harry is a very private person, and that's the way he likes it, and that's what I'm absolutely accepting. And so I don't really know too much about it. I know that he's happy where he is in a happy place right now, and he plays a lot of guitars, and he's still great on his instrument and so on. He likes to do stuff. Whatever comes out. I have asked him as well if he wanted to join. Since he is a private person, if he wanted to join maybe on a song on my solo album in Swedish, because he used to live here as well, and so on. That never came about. And I have asked him of other different stuff, and so it's really up to Harry. So I don't really know what he got up his sleeve, but I know that he now feels that he's very keen on playing and doing some material, and whoever he decides to work with, I think they should be lucky, because he's an amazing guitar player.
So my last interview was with Stevie James from Tiger Tails, and we message each other from time to time, and I told him I'm going to be interviewing Zinny, and he thinks you're a great guy. Just wanted to let you know. But one thing about both of your voices that kind of seems similar to me is that you'll kind of sing in like a middle tone, right? And then you'll go into the screeching. And he kind of mentioned who some of his influences were. Who are some of your influences as a vocalist?
Stevie James. We have met in Sweden. We had an absolutely great time. Fantastic guy. I like him a lot. So if you talk to him, say hi from me. He was here a couple of weeks some years back, and we had a really great time. Well, my influences on my vocals, well, wow, that's a tough one. Well, so many bands that influence. One of my, let's say, my all-time, say, rock and roll singer hero is still Steven Tyler, because right. He's way cool, and he's absolutely amazing. I never think near what he's doing, but I was influenced by Steven Tyler. I was influenced by Alice Cooper and the Billion Dollar Babies albums and stuff like that, I was also very influenced by Nazareth. And I think that's how this screaming voice came about, more or less, trying to sing Rasamanas or whatever. So yeah, but it's a lot of styles here and there, and I was very much into punk era again. So the attitude that I have, some people are saying I'm an attitude singer, and that came about from John Lydon, Johnny Rotten, because I thought he had an attitude, 100% attitude in his voice. So there's different stuff like that. But I would say McCafferty from Nazareth. I would say Steven Tyler. I would say even Johnny Rotten. And there are more singers around there, but those are the ones I really listen to. I love the early AC/DC stuff, of course, as well. So.
Yeah, I can. Yeah, with you saying that all makes sense. I can hear that in your voice. So one last question. You've kind of touched on it. You said the train may have left the station, but if all 4 original members want to do some festival gigs, want to do an album, want to do something, you are game, correct? You're in?
Well, again, if it's the right time and place, I'm absolutely up for it. I have no problem with it whatsoever, because despite the fact that me and Tim hasn't talked since 1990, it doesn't really matter. Sometimes there are tension in bands and so on and so forth, and sometimes that tension is really good because it comes out some creativity of it. You've seen it in Van Halen, you've seen it in Aerosmith as well, and so on. So I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. I would think it would be absolutely mighty fun to do that. But then again, why I said is that the Shotgun Messiah train has left the station is more or less that we tried to see if we could do something. And the reason why we were aiming at Europe at that time and the festivals over here is due to the fact that they really want bands like Shotgun Messiah and so on. But that also leaves Tim and Harry to go back and forth and so on and so forth. And the reason, if we could do it in the U.S., absolutely, but it seems like the scene for bands like Shotgun Messiah in the U.S. ain't that big. But as you say, if the time and place is right and everything, I would be absolutely up for it, as long as I know that I can pull the songs off. Otherwise, I will not do anyone a favor to go up there and sing.
Sure. Zinny, thanks so much for talking to me, man. Good luck with the new album in February.
Well, thank you, Matt.
Wow, what a great conversation. Zinny is a super cool guy. Stay tuned for his upcoming album, Rock On!